Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, on Android or Apple, Spotify. Recommending you go there. Apple Podcasts been a little slow of late. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server, $2.99 per month. Got more than 1,000 subscribers in there, talking Heat all day long. Get off of Twitter, 10 different channels, stage shows, transaction channel, draft channel. Our guy Adele is in there. We've got everything in there. So the place for the most Heat conversation, information, consternation, celebration. Not much of that of late. Check it out. It's Off the Floor. Again, link right here in the description. Also check out Prize Picks. Use the code 5. Legal in the state of Florida. Again, use the code 5 FIVE. You get $50 to play right away. And now, today's episode.
Mercy. Luxurious Heat Nation. Yeah. Mercy and Lago. Down to Biscayne. Yikes. Five on the floor. Ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing. You can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars. Wearing bubble frogs. Down to Biscayne. Kept the floor playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's about have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the Five Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to Hockey Town, USA. Just for a little while. I live in Fort Lauderdale. It's Panthers up everywhere. Yeah, exactly. Today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick on Five Reasons Sports. And a friend of the program. I've been on his many times. We always offer the home and home here. You can have me on anytime, Brian. I always appreciate chatting with you on Sirius XM NBA. You can follow him at BGeltz NBA. It's Brian Geltzeiler. And we're bringing you on for a variety of reasons. Want to talk NBA. Obviously, we've got the NBA Finals coming up. Not the one that a lot of folks predicted, particularly in the Eastern Conference. But we're going to talk about some general NBA stuff. But I do want to start here with the Heat because, look, we have certain guests who come on and Heat fans have the pitchforks out for them. And then we have certain guests who come on and they say something that gives Heat fans hope. And lately, hope has not been a good thing. We hope traffic here on Five on the Floor, and they haven't gotten anybody in recent years. But I did catch a clip of you speaking about Kevin Durant specifically. So I want to speak to you in this context because we've done a few episodes on Durant. We know that the Heat have interest. They've had interest for years and years and years. They were second in the Durant sweepstakes in 2016, even though they were long shots. They tried to get him from the Nets. They tried to get him at the deadline from the Suns. So this has been a long process of Pat Riley and the Heat organization wanting Durant. But I was looking at some of the Bovada odds or one of those, and the Heat are listed at fifth in terms of getting Durant. I've spoken to a couple of guests from Phoenix, and they said this was before Minnesota lost in the postseason, that Houston would be the favorite if they wanted him. What gives you the belief? And again, I want to be clear. We always have to separate this stuff because it gets aggregated. As you know, it's not a report, but it's belief. What gives you the belief that they're going to get him this time?
Because I think the market for Durant is limited, Ethan. I just don't see. I don't think what Phoenix thinks they're going to be able to take in, they're going to be able to take in. You're not going to see 3 first-round picks and 2 swaps and 2 good young assets. I just don't think there's an appetite for that because the teams that can pay it and still have a lot around Durant afterwards are not going to want to pay it. Like if I'm Houston, I don't know that I think I want to hold the Phoenix picks and keep the dudes that I have. Kevin Durant's 37 years old. You have a young core. If Giannis is available, that becomes a different ballgame. Then I'm willing to pony up everything for 30-year-old Giannis, but 37-year-old Kevin Durant. So if you're Houston, I don't even know that I want to bid and bring him into my young team. I think they're building something significant there. You know, you look at San Antonio, they certainly would have enough if they wanted them, but they're on a completely and entirely different age trajectory. OKC is about to play in an NBA final. What do they need them for? So now we come down to some of the teams that don't have those huge packages to offer for him. And so New York is one of them. But Ethan, you tell me, we just watched the Knicks get beat by Indiana in a 6-game Eastern Conference final series, a series they easily could have won. And they got a good young group. That was first year they had this group together in this way. I don't know that you need Kevin Durant there. I think I'd run it back with the group that I had, or if I'm going to make a change, it's not going to be for Durant. Minnesota becomes interesting because I would think that Julius Randle might be a palatable piece for Phoenix, but where are they on picks? And that brings me back to the Heat. Okay. The Heat, I mean, Andrew Wiggins is a guy who I think could help a team trying to compete. Now, again, is he a third scoring option? I'm not sure that he is. Does Phoenix need that? Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. I don't know what Phoenix needs at this point with the terrible year they had. But if you look at salaries, Wiggins and Rozier fit almost the 54 million Durant's making. Those are very, very close, those two together. And Terry Rozier, who is in the last year of a contract, essentially functions in a deal like this as a human trade exception because you can't figure you're going to get anything from him. But by the same token, that outgoing salary that's expiring has some value and has some use. And then you talk about picks and young players. And listen, there's going to be some cap gymnastics. You may end up having to see a situation where the Heat, don't guarantee Duncan Robinson's contract for next year. Take the cap hit and get rid of him to create more space to come below aprons to be able to do this. So there's definitely some cap gymnastics that'll have to happen. But as far as the bidding is concerned, besides those three teams, I just don't see anybody else having an aggressive appetite for Durant. The one other team I'd potentially throw in the mix would be Dallas. But again, with Dallas, what are we talking about to make the salaries work there? Well, it would have to start with PJ Washington and Klay Thompson. And is that going to be palatable? And then Dallas is going to have to put a lot more in there as well. Maybe Gafford. I don't know if that's palatable for Dallas. So I just think Miami is kind of right in the mix here because they don't have a ton to give. But if you can spice it up with a young player like a Jovic, like a Jaime Jaquez, with those contracts, with a pick or two, that may be the best Phoenix is going to see here in a Durant deal. And with the way they shopped him against his will at the trade deadline, I'd be really surprised if Phoenix is going to bring Kevin Durant back. So I think Miami, the market is falling to them a little bit for a 37-year-old Durant right now because we're watching a kind of a sea change in the NBA, a landscape shift where youth is being served in a big way as we go into these NBA finals.
All right, that's all great stuff. And I want to backtrack on some of it and try to hit it as we go forward because I want to talk about the Giannis piece of this and how the bidding for him could affect Durant with some of these teams. But let me just give you the background I've given our listeners about the Durant situation as it played out at the trade deadline this year. This is my understanding of what happened. And it's another reason why I think you're right. But I also think that the owner in Phoenix might get in the way here. So let me go backtrack to sort of what happened. The Heat, as you know, were trying to trade Jimmy because Jimmy wanted to be traded, and then it became a situation where they had to trade him. That Pat and the Arisons both had meetings with him. It did not go very well, and Pat said, "I was never going to trade him." But at that point, they were not comfortable being uncomfortable at that stage, and so it just became a move where they were going to try to trade him. So they had conversations, obviously, with various teams. Jimmy's representatives submarined them with Memphis and a couple of other situations. It became about the Beal contract, which the Heat were never going to accept. No other team was going to accept. And then he had the no trade clause where he had obviously some control over the situation. And then as the Heat are exploring this and they're talking to Golden State and their relationships with Golden State that go way back, Nick Arison and Mike Dunleavy Jr. know each other from back in Duke, etc. A lot of stuff was going on. The Heat, to my understanding, became aware that Durant didn't want to go to Golden State. Okay, even before the Warriors were familiar with this. And so as that was taking place, and the Heat were basically finding out that really Phoenix, essentially Golden State wanted Jimmy just to flip him for KD, then the Heat were like, okay, well, we'll inquire about KD. So they did. And my understanding is that they made an offer, which was originally, I know people have talked about it being Jimmy and Josh Richardson in a first. My understanding is it became Jimmy and Jovic and a first that they were willing to go to. And that, honestly, because you mentioned the second aprons, that's all they could have done because Phoenix couldn't aggregate contracts, etc., because over the second apron. Okay, so they couldn't even have traded Jaquez in that deal because Jaquez's contract would have pushed them over. My understanding is that Ishbia, the owner of the Suns, then asked for everything. Okay, and it was been very complicated, but where Jovic, Jaquez, picks, everything basically that the Heat have. And I'm just wondering, do you think, from what you know of Ishbia's tenure in Phoenix, and we've had people on from Phoenix, that he'll be, I guess, realistic about this? I mean, and actually trade him for a reasonable package if, again, the Godfather package from a Houston or something like this does not emerge?
In the short term, no. The problem's going to be this, Ethan. Durant's going to step on his head. Durant's going to, because keep in mind, you think Kevin Durant was happy finding out that he was shopped and that they were ready to trade him when he didn't ask to be traded? No. So now
only
Kevin
place he
Durant
hasn't wanted to be traded from, Brian. It's the only place he had, right?
Correct.
OKC, I guess you could. I mean, but it's the only place he wanted to stay, and they basically were like, "Nah, we don't really want you."
That's correct. So now Ishbia is going to turn around and hold the high price on him. Does Durant care what he gets traded for at this stage? Absolutely not. He wants to go somewhere. He wants to be out of there, go somewhere and compete. That's what he wants to be able to do. And frankly, I think Kevin Durant would welcome going to the Eastern Conference right now. The big overhanging thing in all this, Ethan, is the fact that Boston's about to take a gap year. So now all of a sudden, you just saw this conference, and all due respect to the Indiana Pacers that earned the win of the Eastern Conference. They played terrific, and they got themselves there. But it's a little weaker than the West, and it's a little watered down. And with Cleveland not sure what they're going to do, and New York and Indiana kind of being the class of the conference right now, you put Kevin Durant on the Miami Heat, and you're able to keep Bam, and you're able to keep Tyler Hero, and you're able to keep Davion Mitchell and keep Khalil Ware, and go to battle and see what you can do. And like, that's where the conference is right now. It's worth a puncher's chance to do that if you see that kind of player out there. And I think the price tags come down enough. And I will tell you, Ishbia is going to want the world. Durant's going to say, get me out of here. Durant's going to threaten to not report. Durant's going to make a mess, and Ishbia is going to have his hand forced. Matt Ishbia is getting a lot of lessons on the fly of what it's like to own an NBA team. Having a guy completely ask out on him hasn't happened to it yet. It's about to happen if he's not going to be reasonable about this. Because Kevin Durant, again, he doesn't care. When it was the Brooklyn situation, it was different. Durant originally was angry, and then he sat down with Joe and Claire Sy, and they pretty much said, come here, work hard, play as hard as you can. We will get you to Phoenix. You just have to give us some time. And there was some trust there. There was no trust. And so so Durant was willing to play good soldier because he trusted the size, and the size came through on what they promised him. Matt Ishbia has gone behind his back, and I don't think that Durant feels that way about him. And if Matt Ishbia now is going to be a pain about getting Durant where Durant wants to go, Durant will fight this in public. We've seen it in the past with Kevin Durant, and there'd be no reason that we wouldn't see it again.
All right, I got two more on Durant, and then on the other side, we're going to switch to the NBA. And one of the things you're talking about here with Phoenix is it's not just Ishbia. There's turmoil in that front office too. Yes. Obviously, the Bartelstein situation that they're dealing with. James Jones. I don't even know what JJ's. I know JJ very well from his time in Miami. I don't even know what his
kind
role
of powerless, is Ethan.
there anymore. It seems like it, and so it's not even clear who's running the show. They haven't hired a coach yet. All that is kind of playing out as we speak. I guess one of the things with KD that's interesting to me is that he's made it clear all he really cares about is playing ball. Like, that's it. Like, he doesn't want to lead. He doesn't want to do it. He just wants to play ball without the distractions. And everywhere he's gone, other than Golden State, where he didn't get the credit for it because he joined a stacked team, there have been distractions. There have been these distractions in Brooklyn, obviously, with Kyrie's situation and Harden's situation. Phoenix tried with Booker. They acquired Beal, which was a clear mistake, and that didn't work out at all. For KD coming to Miami, you mentioned the East. The East is really, really, really depleted right now. I don't know that Cleveland could be trusted. They may make moves this year, as you mentioned. New York and Indiana obviously have established themselves. Boston's, like you said, a year off. Milwaukee, Dame's out for the year. It's a mess. Detroit, Orlando look like they're coming up, but they still need pieces before they're going to get anywhere. The easy move for Durant is to go east. I mean, and that should be the Heat's pitch to any player, is just come east. Why are you going to go in that bloodbath out there in the West? But do you think KD cares about legacy at this point? Because he goes back at people on Twitter, give him a hard time about, latching on for a championship and all that. Like, he's probably not going to win a title with Miami. I don't think. I mean, I'd like to hope traffic that, but I don't think they're in position to win in the next 2 years. What is in it for him other than coming east, and the fact that he's expressed a lot? He likes Bam, clearly, and he's expressed a lot of a respect for Eric Spoelstra, which obviously was part of the 2016 pitch.
Yes, and listen, I think there's a couple things involved for him. First of all, he still thinks he's the same guy he was 10 years ago. He's not, but he still thinks he is. So he doesn't necessarily believe he can't win. He sees a depleted East and figures that's got an opportunity. he likes being with young guys. He likes Bam a lot. He'll enjoy playing with Hero. He likes coming and playing with younger guys. And I think that'll help him. And he just like Miami's a serious place about basketball. And he wants to come play serious basketball. He doesn't want the clown show anymore. You're absolutely right. The dude's a baller at heart. He just wants to come and play basketball. And then the other thing is this. Listen, one of the things, Kevin Durant, we can be critical of him for a lot of things in his career, maybe no more so than his propensity to get coaches fired at a win. That can't happen here. You will not do that here. But I actually think there's a security in that for him. This system's in place. I'm going to come and I'm going to enter the system and I'm going to join these guys and let's see it through. And maybe I come and we're one piece away, but we have a chance to get that piece. Like it's the thing is this, you can't always be on the best team. But if you're on a team that you feel like has a chance to do something, guys get hurt. The 2019 Toronto Raptors, right? The Golden State Warriors collapsed around them. Last year, the Pacers beat the Knicks in a second-round series because the Knicks couldn't hold up. You just never know what happens.
This year, Brian. Like,
Same thing with the Celtics.
And that's the Heat's attitude on this is just get us in the game. And I know that frustrates a lot of fans here because they're like, well, why didn't we tank? Then the Dallas ended up getting their pick, which again, there had to be a coin flip and all that kind of stuff. But
tanking didn't help, man. Utah and Washington 5-6. Ethan, tanking's not the panacea.
I know, and from what I'm hearing, there's going to be a lot of changes to the lottery too. I'm with you on that. I understand that, and I get that part of it. I guess let's get to the final piece of this, and then we'll go around the NBA rapid fire on the other side. The Giannis thing. It would seem to me like you talk about San Antonio. Like I guess there was the report that Durant and San Antonio had mutual interest at the deadline. I can see why on Durant's perspective, but they're also breaking in a rookie coach, different situation, stable organization. But it would seem to me like KD's going to have to wait to see what plays out with Giannis, isn't he? Like teams are going to hold their assets for Giannis. I feel like that's going to freeze the market if ultimately he presses Milwaukee to trade him.
Yeah, and Milwaukee's got to want to trade him. And listen, I personally think both sides should want a amicable parting. I think it'd be better for Giannis and better for the Bucks. And I'm not sure both sides are going to ask for it for different reasons. Giannis doesn't want to be the bad guy. And the Bucks, I think, are a little bit nervous about having an empty downtown arena without a star to market. And so I think that worries them a little bit. So I don't know how likely he is to get traded. It's something that's going to be entertaining. But here's what I think is really important for, let's say, 26 teams in a league, exempting the Bucks, exempting the Thunder, the Spurs, and the Rockets. Because you have to understand if the other 26 teams, you don't have enough. You don't have enough. If Houston wants them, they get them. If San Antonio wants them, they get them. If OKC wants them, they get them. And that's where the bidding war comes in. I don't think OKC is going to want them. They're about to play in an NBA final. The other two teams, listen, San Antonio's got the number 2 overall pick. Let's get Dylan Harper's a player. And by the way, they have De'Aaron Fox, who's extension eligible here. They may, and Harper's essentially a point guard. No, Harper could play a wing. It's fine. But you understand my point. Like they have that ability to do that. San Antonio has a number 2 overall pick who's a stud player in this draft that they can do that. My point being, when you start to split, like we've heard Giannis's name attached to teams like the Warriors, the Knicks, the Heat. It's a non-starter there. It really is. Yeah. You just don't have what these other teams have. So when you start to plan your off season, you can't plan your off season and have the centerpiece of it be a Hail Mary. You need to have to monitor the market. You have to understand that if these other teams fall out and they still want to trade them, maybe you can slide in. So you certainly keep an eye on that, but you can't make plans for that. Because if he's going to go, one of those teams is going to want to. The one thing I would say that he could have in their hip pocket is the same thing we just talked about with Durant. Being East is not a bad thing right now if you want to advance in the playoffs. And if Giannis wants to move and stay in the East, he could turn around and say, hey, get me to Miami. Now, I think Milwaukee would want to make him happy and put him in a happy place, because if they're going to do this, I think it's going to be amicable. But how much are they willing to sacrifice to do that? I mean, listen, we're talking about huge packages from Houston and San Antonio. If those packages aren't available and Giannis wants out, there is a scenario that has Giannis being someone that could land on the Heat. I just don't think it's a likely one. And more importantly, and listen, the Heat are very smart. They know exactly what they're doing. Andy Ellisberg, Pat Riley, they're not going to plan for a guy that's going to be a Hail Mary. They'll keep their eye on it. But it's not something you plan for, because, again, if any of those other 3 teams want him, he's theirs.
Well, and the other thing is Giannis and Bam share an agent, but Bam would probably have to go the other way. And that's the
Correct.
thing here. If you're talking about a trade, and that makes things more complicated. All right, on the other side, we're going to do 5 and 5 with Brian to close this out. That's a new segment I'm trying. Nobody actually executes it, but we're going to give it a shot on the other side. I do want to mention a great sponsor, the 5 Reasons Sports Network. You can find her on all of our program. Probably the biggest Heat fan I know, but also works for A Aggressive Insurance Agency. You can find her at insurancebyLynette.com, 954-581-8800. Life insurance, homeowners insurance, renters insurance. Reach out to her. Based in Lauderhill, but services the entire Tri-County area down here. So find her again at 954-581-8800 or insurancebyLynette.com. All right, number one here. I should be faster about this stuff. Let's just start with the Indiana-Oklahoma City series and pace. I have a question for you about that. Indiana likes to play fast. OKC and Indiana, the fastest pace in the playoffs so far. Is that the way for Indiana to play against this Thunder team? Because you've seen this Thunder team sometimes when they lock in defensively, it's a 20-3 run because they're just able to go at you that quickly. Should Indiana change its style at all in this series?
They can't. They're damned if they do, and they're damned if they don't, Ethan. Because if they change their style, Oklahoma City's so good defensively, and Oklahoma City gambles a ton defensively, but they do it because every guy in that rotation is a premium defender. So the help behind the guys gambling is terrific. You can always recover because you're going to have that help. If you're Indiana, you can't. Your only source of easy baskets is transition. Otherwise, how you getting easy buckets? So if you're Indiana and you're going to limit your possessions, you're going to limit your ability to get easy baskets, and you're not going to win a series that way. By the same token, if you run against OKC, they have the potential to run you out of the gym. What I think is going to be interesting about Indiana is, do they play a lot more zone than they played in the Knicks series? They played very little zone defense in the Knicks series. And I do think there is a school of thought, if you get OKC into a little bit of a half-court game and turn them into a make-or-miss group. Listen, they got good enough shooters. They're likely to make over miss. But you talk about like what the percentages are in terms of playing certain ways. I would think we'll see more zone from Indiana. But it's going to be the same thing with Indiana. They're going to run. The one other thing with OKC that's interesting is they'll be a lot more comfortable punting on offensive rebounding, and be back in transition than I think the Knicks were at all. The Knicks really sold out on the offensive glass and didn't do a great job in transition defense. OKC will be much smarter about that.
All right, yes or no answer here. Will Anthony Edwards still be on the Minnesota Timberwolves in 3 years?
Yes.
You think so?
No doubt.
Okay, you think
I do.
Is that because you think ownership keeps him there now that A-Rod has gotten control and there seems to be some relationship there? Is that why you think so?
Listen, I think that, first of all, they will spend money. This ownership, is not the Taylors. They will and they'll spend money they don't have, Ethan. They brought Michael Bloomberg in because they were a little light, and he's helped them out a little bit with an ownership stake.
So did my university, Brian, because I went to Johns Hopkins, and every building is Bloomberg. So I wish I could bring him here to help me. I get it.
See, we'll bring him everywhere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But they will spend money, and they're looking for big ticket items. They want a championship team. This is kind of what they're determined to do. And Mark Lowry and A-Rod are similar types of guys in how competitive they are and cut that way. So I don't think Anthony Edwards is going to ask out of there because, listen, he's got a coach that he respects. I mean, how many times you see a coach call out a guy like Chris Finch did with him in the middle of a playoff series and have Edwards look at a press contingent and say, he's right. There's a relationship there. He's built for that city and that organization, and they've kind of crafted it around him. He's comfortable. They love him. They know who he can be. I mean, I personally think some of the heat he's taken over the course of the last, week or two has been a little bit unwarranted for a 23-year-old player. Guy's a young guy. I mean, he's going to get there. With all that said, saying I'm going to outwork everybody this offseason. I work harder than everybody in less than an hour after you just kind of rolled over in an elimination game, is a little rich, but again, young guy growing up, and in the end, I think that's a long-term relationship between those.
They need to get it. They need to get another creator in the backcourt for sure. You think this is LeBron's last season?
No, he's second team All NBA this year. I just think he's playing too damn well. Like the thing about LeBron is this: who cares how old he is? If you can continue to play at this level and be in the playoffs and have a chance, let's say you were 3 seed in the West and you had a major change to this roster midseason. Now, I will tell you this: if I am LeBron James, and I would hope that he's done this by now, I would have sat down not long after that season ended with Luka and pretty much said, if you don't come back forget about the best shape of your life. I want you to come back in the best shape of my life. The shape I'm in is what I want to see you in. And he does look good. Because if not, if not, I'm asking out. If not, I don't want to be. This is my last year with you unless you're going to take that part seriously. And Luka looks great right now. So something is going right there in terms of that. And no, I think of the Lakers, this whole Luka thing re-energized him because it kind of he's doing for Luka something that he was supposed to do for Anthony Davis, but he never did. Which was just let him be the number one and play off the ball, be the number two.
What Dwayne did for him actually is what he's doing for Luka. All right, so number 4 here, and this is the most important one, and I'll move it up to 4 because I just mentioned Dwayne. Third best shooting guard of all time, is it Dwayne Wade or James Harden?
Oh, it's Dwayne Wade. I love James Harden. It's Dwayne Wade. This is where we get a little too caught up in looking at spreadsheets. Okay, Dwayne Wade could do things to win playoff games that James Harden never could do. Dwayne Wade be willing to go to the basket, attack that basket, get to the free throw line tons of times. He guarded in a way James Harden could never defend. I don't even think it's an argument. And I know they're going to throw numbers at me and Harden's efficiency and all that and how he used the three. Great,
Brian. It's not efficient. It's not efficient when in a third of his postseason games, or all close to a third of them, he shot 25% or lower. So that's something. All right, last one here. The Warriors traded for Jimmy Butler, and then they immediately signed him to a 2-year contract of $120 million roughly. Will they regret it?
No. Listen, it depends. I don't think they'll regret it in the end because this is the only option they had to try to keep Curry's championship window open for whatever great years Curry has left. Not good years, great years, because he had another great year this year. He did. Another second-team All-NBA guy. So if you can keep this open with Curry's great years, listen, eventually Butler's going to want more money and it's going to go bad. It always does. But at that point, we'll see what level he's playing at. But in the interim right now, what Golden State bought last year, Ethan, was the rest of this year and next year for Butler to keep his mouth shut. So they essentially got a year and a half to help Curry compete. That's what they did. Listen, Jimmy, all of Jimmy's dust-ups come down to the same thing. Pay me. That's all, and it's what it was here. It's pain.
That's all it was about, and everybody's ever this about. And roll and this and that. But roll was related to paying him. That's what I've tried to tell people. He wasn't happy with what came out of training camp because he wasn't going to be featured in a way that was going to get them to pay him. All right, Brian, you always deserve your money, so we got it. We appreciate it, Brian Geltzeiler.
Always.
Again, you can follow him at BGeltz NBA and on Sirius XM NBA. Hopefully, the Heat will be in a position sometime where I'll get an invite to your show again.
We're going to get you back soon. I promise. As soon as they make a move, you're coming on NBA weekend, my man.
Geez, that'll be 5 years from now. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, pal.
Yep.